Welcome to the Culture Docent with Dr. Carr, where real stories spark real change. Together, we'll break down culture, leadership, and inclusion and rebuild them into something transformative. This is where conversations become movements. This is the culture.
Hey, y'all. This is Dr. Carr, the Culture Docent, here to help you navigate and curate the experiences you want to have. Welcome back. I hope you had the chance to catch up on all of our previous episodes, and I am ready to dive in on episode 9, What to Do in the Space Between. So originally, I had planned to talk about something different with y'all, but after traveling to conferences, y'all know it's conference season, after homecoming, really great conversations that I had visiting 101 years of Howard Homecoming. Y'all see me repping the sweatshirt if you're watching me on video. So shout out to class of 2010, which is my class. We celebrated a wonderful 15-year reunion after doing all of that. And then, very unfortunately, after these historic layoffs that we've seen happen last week with Amazon and some others, the ongoing government shutdown as of today that I'm recording. So hopefully by the time we're watching, it's maybe over. But I really want to talk to y'all about the work that has to be done when leaving a job and starting a new one, like that little awkward space in between. So, everyone, right now, I first want you to stop and extend yourself some grace. Let's take a breath. If you have recently been laid off or left voluntarily because of unsafe working conditions, we need to just stop. Take a breath. We're going to do another one because that really needs to reset. We need to take stock in that. You do not have to make any decisions yet, nor should you, right? I know that you may have bills piling up. You have people that rely on you, whether that is family, extended family, people that you need to rely on that are also going through something. That is just really another reason why you cannot skip over processing what has happened. Take a moment to really process what you're feeling. Freedom, hurt, anger, humiliation, excitement, fear, confusion. All of these are emotions are real. All of them are valid. If you've ever had to abruptly and unceremoniously leave a role, it can be very jarring and you need to process it. You need to be in the right headspace to figure out what are those next steps. And you cannot do that if you are dismissive of your nervous system. I do not want to go into too much depth about the specific steps you need to take off after a layoff. There are a number of resources and voices out there that will specialize in this area. I am an expert in a lot of things, but that is not one of them, and I do not want to steer you wrong. I want you to find the resources that make sense that can help you navigate, your severance options, if you need to take legal action for some reason, even if you are trying to maintain ownership of some of the projects that you worked on, unemployment benefits, all of those things, right? There are experts out there to help you with that. So please take advantage of the free resources that are out there. If you don't know where to go, you better get on the internet and start looking, right? Because there are things. Ask your community, ask other people that may have experienced a layoff. It's really unfortunate. It's not the first time that we've seen this, not the first time that we're going to go through this, but they will be able to help you and support you during that time. But we are going to, really talk about is acknowledging the challenges that come with the role, either involuntarily or voluntarily. Some people leave for all sorts of reasons. But how do you prepare for that next role? Because it is coming. It is coming. It is coming. I just want to foot stomp that. It is coming. So I have 3 kind of pieces of advice or suggestions that I want you to follow in this time and trying to navigate that space in between. Number 1, reflect. Reflection is powerful. What did you like about your previous role that you want to do more of or that you want to do less of? If you're like, you know what, I loved working with customers, but I really did not like doing, the back of the house stuff. Take stock of that. Write that down, right? You need to think about and reflect on what are some of those things. There's so much that you learn about yourself and about what you want for yourself when you take a moment to think about what are some of the things that you really enjoy, how to chase your happy, right? What are some things that you really dislike? And you're like, I really don't want to do that ever again if possible, right? If I have to work, I don't want it to be doing that particular task. What was the culture like at your organization? Is this something that you were looking forward to every day going into work? They had summer Fridays or unlimited PTO, and they had amazing benefits. And you felt really supported by your supervisors? Was that the type of culture that you had? Or was it kind of the opposite of the culture that you wanted for yourself, right? Like you didn't feel trusted, you didn't feel supported, you felt like there was a lot of underhanded activity going on, right? So, those are some of the things that you really want to reflect on because it helps you understand where you're moving next. Are you ready to step out on your own? That's another reflection question. After layoffs, we see, this uptick in folks starting their own consulting practices, right? Want to say like, I've done this for 15 years. It's actually time that I start helping other people do this in a very niche area. We also see folks finally diving headfirst into that business that they've always wanted to start. We always see a ramp up of some of those side hustles, whatever that looks like, right? But the most important thing again is to reflect on your journey and start thinking about where you'd like to go next. Number 2, shift your mindset. We are not talking, excuse me, we are not talking about the toxic positivity and that you need to appear like I am a big believer in manifesting, but this is not necessarily what I'm saying. I want you to shift your mindset is after leaving a toxic or hostile work environment, being laid off, it is very easy to ruminate about your past treatment. Very easy. I have done it myself. You spend all this time thinking about what they played in my face, how many times I should have left, how many times, I felt like they built me up and made me out to be this like really rock star, a superstar, and then straight pulled the carpet from underneath, pulled that rug from underneath me, threw me under the bus. And I'm not talking about a specific organization or even a specific team. These are things that have happened to me. And I feel like that resonates with a lot of other folks too. You think about all of those bad times and you're just like, oh my gosh, I should have left so soon, so much sooner. Or I can't believe that they would lay me off, depart me, make a headcount decision, whatever they call it. And after I've given all this time and given all this energy and given of myself to this organization, and you sit and you think about it for so long. Or there's a lot of folks out there that, were laid off or decide to take an exit for some reason. But all I can think about is I really love the team that I was working on. They're such great people. I loved my manager. I loved the working style. I loved the benefits I had. It was just such a great place. I don't necessarily want to leave. That rumination is not good either. We cannot continue to just think and think and think about the same thing about our past employer because it becomes unhealthy, right? We have to shift our mindset from focusing on the former and to focusing on our needs, our wants, our goals, right? This is not I am not telling you to forgive or forget with Mother Love. I know some of y'all remember that show. But this isn't that. I'm not saying forget or forgive mistreatment. I'm not saying forget all those people that supported you along the way. It's more don't allow yourself to continue to ruminate and think about that constantly. If you're constantly thinking about that, you will not be open to receive your next opportunity. All of your space is being filled with thinking about the last one, and we need to open that space up to think about the new one. So think again, going back to that first step, that reflection. What do I want the next step in my journey to be? I need to shift my mindset and be open to receiving those possibilities and open to receiving that positive energy into this next part of my journey. So, number 3, give yourself time to the extent that you are able. Let me say that again. To the extent that you are able, take time before you start to apply to new jobs. So, a lot of y'all you may have been laid off within the last week or so. So hopefully by the time that you're listening to this, you are just now starting to apply for jobs, right? You need to take time. If you already have a job lined up, try to push your start date out just a bit. Don't go crazy. We have heard very unfortunate stories of organizations rescinding job offers because someone needed a little flexibility on their start date for one reason or another. So always, again, keep in mind your personal situation, but take the time. Don't jump into your side hustle yet. Don't slam your laptop or give your laptop back, clock out for your last time, and then immediately start going into the next thing, right? You need to give yourself some real time to shake off the residual energy from your previous position so you can enter in your new one with an open mind and a refreshed sense of purpose. I had a coworker tell me years ago that should always take at least a week between new gigs to reset. So shout out to Martin. I'm not going to give his last name, but shout out to Martin because that is some of the best advice that I have ever received and that I try to implement. And honestly, it's not even just job like organization to organization. I try to use that advice role to role, even transferring within organizations, even transitioning between client to client. You need some of that space. You need to be able to reset. You need to be able to, you know, take that time and think about it and kind of just shed all of that. Switch your mindset, right? Shift your mindset. We're leaving all of that gobbledygook, all of the shenanigans in the past. We are opening ourselves up into this next opportunity. We're opening our literally there's something to be said about the body, but like opening our arms ready to receive what is positive and what is coming up next. And you can only do that when you give yourself time. And maybe it's not a week. Not everybody has that. Maybe it is just the weekend. Maybe it's 3 days. Maybe it's not about the length of time. I want it to be a lot of time. It can't just be an hour or so, but give yourself some real time and be intentional about taking that time. Don't talk about work. Don't, everyone's excited about your new role and all of that. That's wonderful that they're excited for you, but just really take that time and be intentional about resetting and coming into this next role refreshed. Okay? And here's a bonus tip for y'all that goes along with the first three things that I said. Once you get in your new role, because again, it is coming, spend time learning and observing. Don't immediately come in and start comparing your new gig to your old gig, good or bad. You walk in and you're like, "Ooh, they got sparkling water that runs the same as like the cold water. They have free food for lunch and for breakfast, or they didn't do it like this in my last job. It was much more efficient. I had a lot more autonomy." Don't do that. One, because if you did the first three things that I told you around reflection, shifting your mindset, and giving yourself time, you wouldn't be doing that in the first place. But let's just say you move into that. Comparison is very human. It is a very human. It is a very natural reaction, right? That's how we observe our world. That's how we understand our world. But it is also the thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. So instead of thinking and trying to compare this new opportunity with your past, just try noting things for yourself, taking those mental notes. So when you walk into a new space, how did it make you feel? Right? Are you like, you know what? I feel lighter. I feel brighter. I feel like this is the space for me. I just feel so welcomed. Or I don't really like, I'm not digging the vibes. I'm not digging the energy. It feels real shaky. I could barely get in the building because my key card wouldn't work. Just make that note for yourself. It is not about the past. It is about for you just taking that mental note, right? Even taking stock in how the interview process went for you. I talk about it a lot, but your candidate experience is directly related to your employee experience. If you have a bad candidate experience, it is very likely you are going to have a bad employee experience because it is indicative of the culture of the organization, right? And so if you, during that hiring process, it felt like, wow, the recruiter was in constant contact with me. I knew every step of the process. I received great feedback, or I felt like, wow, I can see myself with this organization for a certain amount of time or an extended period of time. Or the opposite, where it's like, I had no idea what was going on. It was a surprise to me as much as it was to them that I got the job, right? Like just taking stock of those things is very important as well. But again, it's not the comparison, right? It's just taking stock, taking that mental note. Or if you've decided, hey, I'm stepping out on my own, observe how working for yourself shapes your mood. Maybe this is not your first time working for yourself. Maybe you haven't done it in 10 years, 15 years, and you're like, "Oh, I remember loving this. I love how this makes me feel like I have more free time. I feel like I'm really engaged in my work." Or I really hate this. I do not like working for myself. I don't like having to do all of the tasks, all the duties, all the back of the house stuff. I wish I had a team that would be able to help me do that. Take note of all of those things. Again, these are notes for yourself so that you're getting out of that space of comparing your past experience to your current one and just thinking about how do these things make you feel? What are going to be some of your drivers to help you shift into that next step. So if it's like, hey, I love it here, I'm trying to promote, right? That helps you understand, taking that mental note helps you understand how you want to move to the next step. If it's, hey, I hate working for myself, or I know I need some help in this area because I'm not really good with accounting. I'm not good with marketing myself. I need a social media manager. That also helps you understand how you're going to move into that next space and what kind of supports and resources that you need. Okay. So for this week's carte blanche, we're answering a question I received from a listener. What is one of the biggest challenges you face when helping an organization improve its workplace culture? Okay. So I thought of two things that I feel like were very much interconnected. And while the question was, what is the one of the biggest challenges? It's carte blanche. I get to do what I want. So I'm going to say two, I'm going to respond with two things: trust and complacency. This is true across all industries and organization types. It does not matter. I have worked with leaders from all over, but the first one is trust. So I've worked with people that do not trust their teams that they lead, right? Their own colleagues, or kind of the opposite. They're a leader whose people don't trust them. So that could look like it could be micromanaging, which is a trust issue. Let me just say that now. Whether you think so or not, I'm telling you right now, micromanaging is a trust issue. It means that a leader does not have trust in themselves, confident in themselves, know that they trained their people, that they've developed their people, that they support their people in a way that gives them autonomy to know that, hey, they can handle it without my intervention. That means that you don't trust them and you don't trust you. Okay. That is a huge trust issue that we see quite often. So if you're asking people, you need to CC me on everything. Why? Why do they need to CC you on everything? What don't you trust about this situation? Is it you? Because if you're saying it's to provide top cover on every email, no, it's because you don't trust something in the process. And it's likely yourself. So we need to re-engage and reflect, right? Going back to our reflection. But it could also be, a lack of transparency in decision making. So if going back to our thoughts around layoff, or what the happening with the layoffs, you might have been told by your leadership that, hey, this team is safe. We're not laying off anyone. We're not restructuring. We're not doing a reorg. And only for 2 months later, for whole teams to be dismissed, for there to be headcount decisions, right? For it kind of seemingly to come out of nowhere. It's in response to the market. We hear that a lot. And I'm not saying that some of those things aren't valid. There's a little bit of validity in those things. But what I'm saying is that for the organization, there's a lack of trust in and a lack of transparency, right, in describing those process and how they've come to those decisions and sharing them with their people. That is what breeds that lack of trust. Or it could be the performance management process, right? So if you are being told this is how you move to the next level, or not being told this is how you move to the next level, if this is, if everyone is supposed to get a 5, but there's no clear roadmap on how you get a 5 on your performance evaluation, right? Then there becomes a lack of trust. And we talked about trust and safety in our first episode. So, go back and listen to that. I went into detail on trust and psychological safety because it is a very big thing. And there's a reason why I bring it up constantly, is because it becomes this huge challenge for organizations. And when I have this issue, I then have to spend all of this time working to rebuild trust with stakeholders, right? This has to happen before we can even talk about the new culture, how we want to shape our new culture, how we want to improve the culture, because we have to talk about all of this trust. We have to rebuild trust first. And that is a huge challenge. And it takes a really, really long time to do that. So the second one, complacency. So when I say complacency, I mean those folks that are not bought in from jump, right? We've always done it this way. I don't see why we need a consultant because we already know our processes. They're not going to tell us anything we don't know. Those people. And you have probably experienced something like that, even, on your team or from a supervisor. And hopefully you are not one of those people, but those folks that like to haze, right? Yeah, that's what it is. They're putting you through the ringer. They're putting you through the process. They're hazing you because they had to go through that process. Somebody put them through the ringer. So they're giving you the hardest assignment possible because it's going to build character. They are giving you the hardest shift, the overnight shift, because it builds character or strengthens you or gives you a better understanding of the organization. No, we can get an understanding of the organization with shifts that align to our personal lives, right? Or our career needs. But it is that mindset that we've always done it this way. We don't need any change. I'm going to do things to make it hard for you because that's how I was brought up in the organization. Being complacent with that type of negative culture is very problematic, and it becomes a huge challenge again for people like me, for consultants that are coming in and trying to assist with shaping and driving a new culture, because we have to work with these folks that are not bought in, right? And those individuals, really, their detraction becomes a distraction for others. They're telling everyone, like, you know what, we don't need that process. And now we're having to work twice as hard to not only kind of sidestep those people, but bring them in, get them bought in. And then if you're really successful, turn them into a change agent, right? Where they are telling others, like, yes, this is absolutely the change that we need. But it is such a huge challenge to work with those distractions because they're really hurting the process of informing change, of shaping new cultural norms. And it's harder for us. And so don't be that person. Okay. Don't be that person. If you are closed minded, keep your closed mind to yourself. Do not pollute the rest of the pool. If there is something that, of course, we're not talking about something that is like really raising red flags, right? That should go without being said. I'm talking about you don't want to change because you're complacent and you don't want anybody else to change either. That's fear. That's what that is. It's fear. All right, y'all. This was amazing. I'm so happy to have been able to provide and share some things that I have seen. Absolutely, again, reflecting, shifting your mindset, and really giving yourself time and kind of that bonus of just observing and learning when you do enter a new space. Because again, what? It is coming, right? I know this is just for many of us, this is a really challenging season. So please remember to stay in community with each other. Individualism will not move us forward. It's not going to get us anywhere. We need to work together. We need to be in community with each other. Make sure that you are checking in with your folks. Make sure that folks are checking in on you. Speak up, say what you need. Be in community, y'all. All right. And in community, you can absolutely stop by KMOB1003.com where you can listen to, of course, some new tunes. Art heals, y'all. Go to the TikTok, listen to some of the spoken word, right? We have all of these things to support you and to help you through this time because we are your community. So I will see y'all next Tuesday for more empowering conversations that lead to empowered experiences. Bye, y'all.
We'll be back next Tuesday. Don't miss it. Questions or comments? Email tcd@blkinstitute.com.